Hello, back again. This is part two, dealing with who should get your 10%. We're going to deal with the book of Malachi this time, because that is typically where it all begins, where it starts. In terms of the teaching of tithe. We just got finished looking at the institution of the tithe, not with Abraham, because he did not tithe from his own, but tithing being taught from the standpoint of how Moses delivered it to the people. We see that there is no resemblance to what they did then and what people do today. The people partook of their own tithe. The tithe just wasn't for the ministers. The tithe was also for the stranger, the fatherless, and the widows, as well as for the priests, the Levites. And then the Levites also would offer up a heave offering, because the tithe was also called a heave offering. It was a type of offering. They would offer up a tenth of what they received to the high priest. And a part of that would be what was brought into the storehouse that is typically shown from Malachi, which would be kept. The storehouse, if you look at the Hebrew word, is a granary, a place where grain was stored. They would use that grain to make the showbread, which was the 12 loaves that were in the temple, which, again, showbread meaning the bread of the presence, which represented Yeshua. And only the high priest could partake of the showbread. But let's look at Malachi. What's typically taught is Malachi 3, 8 through 10, in terms of robbing Yahweh and the curses that come upon folks for this. It says, "Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, Wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Ye are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring ye other tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat or food." If you look up the Hebrew word for meat, it means to break apart. Like it's where the term breaking of bread comes from. And so again, referencing the bread in the house. And it says, "And prove me now herewith, says Yahweh of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it." If you continue reading, he starts talking about rebuking the devourer for their sakes, and that their fruit would not be cast before its time, and their vine would be productive. Again, the windows of heaven. You ever hear when it rains really hard, someone says it's like the windows of heaven opened up? Well, that's what that's talking about. The windows of heaven is referring to him bringing rain, that the ground would be saturated, nourished, and that their crops would grow and they would have produce. So that's what the windows of heaven is talking about. It's not talking about raining down finances and a bunch of financial blessings. Again, it's talking about the rain. But that's what's typically taught. And it's typically, whenever I was in a church service and offering time came, we read this. We didn't read anything else in Malachi. We read this. And if you simply read this, yes, a leader, a pastor, or a preacher can stand up there and make a case that the people are cursing God because they're not bringing their tithe and offering to the storehouse. But if we go back to Numbers chapter 18, the Levites were the ones who brought the tithe to the storehouse. It said that he said, take the tithe from the people so that they don't approach the tabernacle lest they approach and sin and die. So the people couldn't even approach the tabernacle. So the people weren't bringing the tithe to the storehouse. The Levites did. So who is Yahweh talking to? Let's take a look. Were they bringing offerings? Were they bringing their heave offering, which was their tithe? Let's take a look at Malachi chapter 1. Let's go back and get a history of what precedes chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. Malachi chapter 1, verse 6 through 8 says, "A son honors his father, and a servant his master. If then I be a father, where is my honor? And if I be a master, where is my fear? Says Yahweh of hosts unto you, O priests, that despise my name. And you say, Wherein have we despised you? Ye offered polluted bread upon my altar." They offered the polluted bread upon his altar. "And ye say, Wherein have we polluted you? In that ye say, The table of the Lord of Yahweh is contemptible. And if you offer the blind for sacrifice, is it not evil? And if you offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? Offer it now unto your governor. Will he be pleased with you? Or accept your person, says Yahweh of hosts?" He has a question. He says, if you offer this, something that is unclean or something that is not proper to a mere man, will he accept it? He said, I'm definitely not accepting what you're bringing me. So they were bringing the offering. They were taking the tithe of the people, and they were bringing it. The problem is the people were bringing that which was lame and sick, and trying to, circumvent the process of bringing what was good. And the priests were accepting it of the people and then offering it up themselves, as we see what the commandment was. Take from the people, and then you offer a tenth of that. Let's take a look at verse 13 and 14 in chapter 1 of Malachi. He says, "Ye said also, Behold, What a weariness is it! And ye have snuffed at it, says Yahweh of hosts. And you brought that which was torn, and the lame, and the sick. Thus you brought an offering. Should I accept this of your hand, says Yahweh. Verse 14, but cursed be the deceiver who has in his flock a male, and a vow, and sacrifices unto Yahweh a corrupt thing. For I am a great king, says Yahweh of hosts, and my name is dreadful among the heathen. A man that has what is proper and what is good, that he said he would vow to Yahweh, but then he chooses to bring something that is unacceptable. Again, it wasn't so much their sacrifice that was being brought or not brought, it was their hearts were wrong. Proverbs 21:3 tells us that justice or righteousness and justice are more acceptable to Yahweh than sacrifice. So you're bringing an offering. You're taking something from what is yours, from your crops, and you're designating it to me as I have commanded, but you're not bringing what I told you. And you priests are not holding the people to the standard that I have set. So the priests are being directly reprimanded beginning in chapter 2. Let's read chapter 2, verses 1 through 9. And it says, and now, O you priests, this commandment is for you. If you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to heart, to give glory unto my name, says Yahweh of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you. And I will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart. Behold, I will corrupt your seed, and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, and one shall take you away with it. And you shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, says Yahweh of hosts. Remember, he made the covenant with the Levites, that they would receive the tithe. My covenant was with him of life and peace, and I give to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name. The law of truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from iniquity. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth. For he is the messenger of Yahweh of hosts. But ye are departed out of the way. Ye have caused many to stumble at the law. You have corrupted the covenant of Levi, says Yahweh of hosts. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according to as you have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. Because they had not upheld the standard of Yahweh, and their hearts were impure, they caused many to stumble. There are many out there today, because they are not properly teaching the word of Yahweh, that are causing many to stumble. And the people's blood is on their hands, and our blood is on our own hands if we do not challenge everything by the word. Okay, you preach what you preach, Pastor, but I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to look at it in for myself. And I'm going to study line upon line, precept upon precept, and dissect it all, because I want to know further truth. Now, you find that at times you might come across something that was taught, you like, wait a minute, that's not here. That's not here. So then you come to understand that a lot of times men teach from their own agendas, or they're simply teaching what they've been taught. They might not be out there, intending to deceive people, but what they're teaching is not the truth nonetheless. So it's important to understand you have to go and look at this thing for yourself and confirm it for yourself, like I always tell you. Don't take anything I'm saying on these videos at face value. Please, please, take a look at the verses I've given you and cross-reference out those verses and use your concordance and your Greek and Hebrew dictionaries and look at the original words and context. That's how I've come to the understanding I've come to. I've been given this understanding because I've laid myself before the Holy Spirit, and he has shown me, but he's not just going to drop it in your mind. You have to spend time in the Word. Glory be to his name. But let's also take a look at Malachi chapter 3 and the verses leading up to verses 8 through 10. Because, again, it's generally taught from the pulpit that the address is to the people. That because the people aren't bringing their tithe and offering, and we just saw that they were bringing their heave offering, which was the tithe. They were bringing their offering, but it wasn't accepted because of the impurity of their hearts. It's generally taught, will a man rob God? And the preacher's there, will a man rob God? He's pointing to the congregation. You're robbing Elohim. It's you. You're not bringing your tithe and offering. So if you don't bring it, you're cursed. But we know they were bringing it, beloved. So let's see who he actually was talking to in Malachi, in his direct address. Because again, chapter 2, we just saw in verse 1 through 9, he was talking to the Levites, right? So let's see who he's talking to. Let's start in verse 1. Malachi 3, verse 1. He says, Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And Yahweh whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in. Behold, he shall come, says Yahweh of hosts. That person that is sent before him is John the Baptist, right? Preparing the way of the Lord. In verse 2 he says, but who may abide in the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Yahweh an offering in righteousness. Coming to show you the right way of worship. How often did Yeshua have to deal with the doctrines and teachings of men, with the religious leaders of his day? I'm coming to purify your worship. I'm coming to purify your lives. I'm coming to deliver you from the bondage of your sin, was Yeshua's purpose for them. And then verse 4 he says, then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Yahweh, as in the days of old and as in the former years. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages. Now here we start dealing with the people who are to partake of the tithe. The widow, the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, says Yahweh of hosts. He says, for I am Yahweh, and I change not, therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. So you know, the priests were allowing individuals that were engaged in such things to pollute the tithe and pollute the offering, the heave offering, which again was the tithe. And Yahweh says, you know, you are oppressing the hireling in his wages, the widow and the fatherless, and you're turning aside the stranger from their right. I have given them a portion of the tithe, along with the people partaking of their own tithe, and along with the Levite. It was a way of worship, and it was a way of service as well. And Yahweh saying it's all unacceptable because it's impure. Now, in the New Testament, which you'll see in video 3, begins after Yeshua's death. So when Yeshua spoke of it in the New Testament, in the Gospels, he was still alive, hadn't shed his blood. So he was dealing with it from still under the mandate of the Old Covenant. We are still, as Paul says, to give, but give according to what we have, not according to what you have not, and as a man purpose in his heart. So we'll see that in video 3. But we see here that the address is to the Levites. They were to bring the tithe into the storehouse and offer up a tithe of their own to the high priest. So the way it's taught today is wrong, and people are being deceived. And this prosperity message has been perpetrated and has taken root in the church because of the improper teaching, first and foremost, of the tithe. And then you got the branching off of the seed time, harvest time message. You plant a seed, you plant a $300 seed, reap a harvest tenfold. Plant a $1,000 seed, reap a harvest, 20-fold, and all this nonsense that you do not find in the scriptures. We, beloved, are Gentiles, and we were meant to be grafted into the original olive branch and become spiritual Jews. But men, Gentiles, have now taken everything. They don't understand the Jewish nature of this book. Not that we're to bring burnt offerings and sacrifices and such in the way that they did, because we know those things were done away with at the cross. But to understand this book, it's about a Jewish Messiah. It was written by primarily Jewish individuals, and if they weren't Jews, such as Mark or Luke, who wrote the Gospels, they were putting out information that they received from the mouth of those that walked with Yeshua, who were Jews, blood-born. So understand that this is not something that men can take and put their own interpretation and spin on it. You must understand it from its core and foundation. And you won't understand tithe unless you look at the whole of the doctrine, the whole of the teaching. Why Yahweh instituted it. To whom did he institute it? Who partook of it? Why he was upset with them in Malachi. Not because they weren't bringing it, but because of what they were bringing. And what they were bringing was out of an impure heart. Because they were trying to give Yahweh the worst and try to keep the best. Whenever we do that, even of a spiritual nature, he looks at it the same way. I'm not accepting your praise and worship because your heart is impure. As I close down part 2, I pray that you're still with me. I pray that you continue to study this out for yourself and really pray on this thing, because it's so important. Don't be deceived. Don't be led to believe whatever man wants you to believe. You believe what the Bible says, and it may cause family to turn against you. It may cause people to consider you an outcast or a heretic, but it doesn't matter. It is, like Peter said, you judge. Should I obey God or men. God bless you. Much love.